Hey there.
Hello,
I'm Hope.
and I'm Rico, and we're here to lay out a case for the Green New Deal.
Let's get to it.
First, what exactly is the Green New Deal, and why do we need it? By now, I'm sure you've all heard about climate change. In 2018, a group of scientists from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, said that we had just 12 years to drastically reduce our global greenhouse gas emissions in order to keep warming below 1.5 to 2 degrees past industrial levels. And that if we failed to stay below these levels, it would cause a spike in erratic weather patterns, mass migration, deadly heat stress, and cost us trillions of dollars and millions of lives. Despite this being the single greatest existential threat of our lifetimes, we currently don't have a plan set in place for this. So that's where the Green New Deal comes in.
To clarify, the Green New Deal is not a bill or piece of legislation. Rather, it is a framework that answers two questions. What do we have to do to solve this issue? And how can we protect people while we solve it? The first part of the Green New Deal says what climate scientists say. We need to completely stop burning fossil fuels as much as is technologically feasible within the very short time frame of a decade. And although this will create entire new industries and millions of new jobs, it will also shut down some other industries that people currently rely on. So the second part of the Green New Deal is a set of promises meant to protect and support people during the transition away from fossil fuels, with things like a jobs guarantee, universal health care, public employment, and education and training for new industries.
So, why should we pursue social justice while solving climate change? There are some who suggest we should focus solely on reducing emissions through technology and the free market. And sure, there are lots of promising technological solutions that would get us to net zero emissions: wind, solar, geothermal, and carbon sequestration. These are all great technologies that should be pursued. But while these solutions solve our immediate need of eliminating greenhouse gas emissions, they alone do not address the core of the issue. What caused climate change in the first place? To answer this, we have to go back to the economy. We currently follow a linear economic model, where we take a resource, make it into a product, use it for a short period of time, then throw it away. Take, make, use, waste. This type of economic model is really efficient in making large amounts of cheap consumer goods in a very short period of time. But we also run into some pretty significant problems along this line.
At the front end, we have resource depletion. Think of the Earth as a savings account. If you keep taking money out without putting money back in, eventually you'll withdraw the account. Similarly, if you keep extracting resources faster than you regenerate them, eventually you'll run out. Some examples of resource depletion we're currently experiencing. Around 85% of global fish stocks are overexploited, depleted, fully exploited, or in recovery from exploitation. 80% of the world's original forests are gone. In the Amazon alone, we're losing 2,000 trees per minute. Global demand for water has increased by 600% in the last century, more than twice the rate of population growth. At this rate, it's estimated that global water demand will surpass supply by as soon as 2030. And finally, a recent UN study stated that if we keep degrading land at our current pace, that we only have about 60 years left of fertile soil to grow our food in. On the tail end, we run into the challenge of waste. The average American currently makes 4.5 pounds of trash per day. It's estimated that there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. And globally, we throw out about 1.3 billion tons of food a year, or a third of all the food that we grow, which then turns into methane, a greenhouse gas 30 times more potent than carbon. Finally, in the middle, we run into labor issues and exposure to pollutants. In this linear economy, natural resources are not the only entities exploited. In order to produce as much cheap product as quickly as possible, most multinational companies intentionally look for areas in the world where labor standards are low. For instance, in the fashion industry, a mere 2% of clothing is made here in the US. The rest is exported to other countries like Bangladesh, where the average garment worker is paid $2 per day, often working in unsafe conditions, as demonstrated by the Rana Plaza incident in 2013, where over 1,100 people died when a garment factory collapsed with workers inside. Workers and citizens alike are also exposed to pollutants on a daily basis. There are over 100,000 synthetic chemicals in use in commerce today, and very few have been tested for health impacts. And it's estimated that air pollution is responsible for 4.2 million deaths per year globally. So at every point of this linear economy, whether it's in the extraction, production, consumption, or disposal phase, there is harm being done to both humans and the environment. But this linear economy didn't happen by accident.
American economist Victor Lebow is quoted from 1955 saying, "Our enormously productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction and ego satisfaction in consumption. We need things consumed, burned up, worn out, replaced, and discarded at an ever-increasing rate." As demonstrated by that quote, the current linear economy that we have was intentionally designed in order to achieve the short-term goal of increased GDP through maximized consumerism. But what economists back in 1955 didn't take into account were all the problems that would arise from trying to grow an economy infinitely in a world with finite resources. This is why addressing the climate crisis through the lens of social and economic justice is so vital. Climate change alone is not the problem. It is a symptom of a deeper issue, an economic system that is fundamentally unsustainable. The Green New Deal gives us the opportunity to not only avert the existential crisis that is climate change, but to redesign how the economy might better serve and include all the people, communities, workers, animals, and ecosystems that are impacted all along this line. In summary, we need to transition from a linear economy based on exploitation, competition, and degeneration to a circular economy based on regeneration, cooperation, and democratic distribution. Now, I know that was a mouthful just then, so let's walk through some examples of what an economy like that might actually look like.
Localize. Supporting and developing local and shared economies is one of the best ways to reduce our society's carbon footprints. Participating in things like repair cafes or trading networks helps keep products in use for longer. Sourcing resources locally eliminates the need to ship things over long distances. And learning to grow your own food or produce your own energy can empower and uplift many communities through autonomy and self-sufficiency.
Democratize the workplace. Cooperative models of business and community organizing allow workers and members to own and manage, meaning the people who are most directly affected by decisions have a direct say in those decisions. Models like these do away with hierarchical structures and rather hold every member as equally valuable, putting the power back into the hands of the community.
Regenerate the land. Increasing organic matter in the soil, reviving wildlife corridors, turning food waste into compost. All of these practices benefit the environment and humans simultaneously by sequestering carbon, increasing nutrition of food, decreasing pollution, and making our living spaces more enjoyable to be in. When we localize economies, democratize work, and regenerate land,
we create resiliency, community, and sustainability.
So, how close are we to these goals? First of all, it's important not to lose hope in the fight against climate change. There's been a lot of progress over the last 30 years, it's just not enough yet. The IPCC 1.5 report makes clear that staying below 1.5 to 2 degrees depends on us reducing CO2 emissions by 45% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. Happily, the world is not standing still in this fight. Renewables made up 26% of global electricity generation in 2018, and this is expected to grow by 50% in the next 5 years, reaching over 30% by 2025.
At the same time, global coal consumption has gone flat. Right now, this is offset by increases in India and Southeast Asia, but these increases are expected to be short-lived. India and China are pulling their weight with their rate of renewable installation. The US is taking some steps, but not quickly enough. Renewable energy is now competitive without subsidies, but subsidies would help quicken the pace and reach the 1.5C targets faster. For instance, thanks to already existing subsidies, US renewable energy has doubled since 2008 and is now 17% of electricity generation. So, although we have a long way to go, reaching these targets is possible, and we already are on our way. Thanks so much for listening to us. If this video resonated with you, we have 2 things that you can advocate for right now, even while you're socially distancing at home.
We're asking folks to contact their congresspeople and voice support for the People's Bailout and the Green Stimulus Plan in response to COVID-19. Both of these proposals detail ways we can stimulate the economy and support working people by investing in green industries and infrastructure.
Calling your congressperson is really simple and only takes a few minutes, but it makes a huge impact. To learn more about either of these proposals, follow the links that will pop up right after us. Wishing everyone health and safety during this time.
Happy Earth Day!